All right, here we go. How's it going, everybody? We are live. Welcome to the Cleric Corner. My name is Riker, and here we talk about all things Dungeons and Dragons, tapping into our higher powers to create worlds more unique and stories more impactful. I think we got our sound and our setup up. Today, if you're tuning in, we are going over the Druid.
Right, here we
and
go.
I got
How's it
some
going,
feedback
everybody?
here.
We are
That's not
live.
good.
Welcome
Hold
to the
on.
Cleric Corner. My name's Riker, and here.
There we go. So you guys don't have to hear me twice. All right. So with today's live stream, we've gone over the sorcerer, the wizard, the warlock, and we have each in turn given them the flavor, the flavor ranking of an A through, or a B. No, hold on, the S. I never know why they put the S at the top. If someone knows, please let me know. But the S through D ranking of how flavorful these classes are, right? But first off, before I get into the Druid, I want to open up the new Patreon members that we have. We just got a new Patreon member, Christian Roberts, as a disciple. Thank you so much for your support. Honestly, a lot of what I can do as a creator and a lot of what I want to do will be dependent on the support that I get through Patreon and other means. I also want to give a big shout out to our top supporters currently, our acolytes, Kaleidoscope and Weaver Atropos. Again, you guys do so much for me and my channel, and I'm excited. You guys make me excited for the future. And it's something that I look forward to. Alvaro, hello. How's it going, buddy? I loved all your comments from the last stream, so I'm excited you're on this one. If you guys do want to support my Patreon, the link is down in the description. This is the first time I'm announcing this. I want to start doing a playtest team. People that will help me playtest some of the subclasses that I have been putting out, since I don't have a lot of means to do that myself, or a lot of time. So I want to take a lot of the subclasses that I've made now and that I will make, depending on the concepts that I've made in my Better Class series. And my Patreons will be the first ones that I look at. They'll be the first ones that I turn to for the help that I need with that, as they are supporters, and I want to give them the opportunity first to be involved in a lot of different ways. So when I say that there are big things coming, there are big things coming. Alvaro said, last week Sorcerer, this week Druid, two of my favorite classes. Druid's awesome. Druid has so many things that other classes don't have, but without getting into spoilers and what we're going to talk about, it is I've enjoyed playing the Druid. I have. Druid was actually my first character ever. It was a tiefling druid that instead of horns he has antlers, and that was really fun. But going into what the tier list is, we'll open that up. This is it. So for those of you who are coming in for the first time or watching this in the future, we are taking a look at the Druid on how closely they relate to the Ludo narrative, or what a Druid is supposed to feel like, as well as the potential to customize, change, reflavor the Druid into something else that's different from their archetype. So S, being the first, features are in complete synergy with the class narrative, a key class for reflavoring, including multiple avenues for customization. So that's the best. For the worst of the worst, in tier D, features seldom work with narrative of the class they are limiting and leaves little room for reflavoring. Now, things that we are looking for. I actually took one of these questions and I switched it out because somebody, and I can't remember who it was, but somebody mentioned this in the last stream, and I'm like, oh, that's actually something that we should be looking for. So, going through the list, do the mechanics work for the narrative? Can you separate mechanics from the narrative? So are they two separate and distinct things that we can take apart? Can you easily make changes to the mechanics, alter them, make them a little bit different than they are? Are the abilities unique to the class? Meaning, are they the only ones that get it? And then here we go. How different would two characters of the same subclass be? Now that's a big question that we haven't really asked before. because when we look at classes and how flavorful they could be, it really depends on if you take two of the same class, but two different subclasses, do they feel the same or do they feel completely different because of the customization that's available? And then the last question, does the class give further options for customization? And that just means, does it have multiple avenues that come in as you can pick? And the Warlock from last week's, or 2 weeks ago, was a perfect example of many avenues of customization on a single character. Alvaro says, my first character was also a druid. Hey, nice. I made sort of elemental damage character. I had no idea about how to properly build characters, but it was so much fun. Yeah, dude, I didn't either. Dude, I didn't know how to play the game. When on the first time playing Dungeons and Dragons, I had personally never played it before. I had a bunch of friends. That's a lie. I had a few friends, and they didn't want to play Dungeons and Dragons with me. So legit, I went to like a party that I was invited to, and I just started talking to people and solicited interest. And I don't know if I told them that it was Dungeons and Dragons, because a couple people telling me later was kind of confused on what they were coming to. But I invited a few people over for like a game night, and I put out Dungeons and Dragons. I had everyone make characters, and everyone's like, what the heck is this? What's going on? I'm like, I promise it's going to be fun. I promise it's going to be fun. And we played Dungeons and Dragons. And it was so easy. It was legit just a guy asked you to clear out his backyard of like rabid baboons, and then they go back there, and it turns out that these like giant shrubs are like awakened and trying to attack them. And we had so much fun. And that one session then turned into a complete campaign with those same people, getting a few more people involved, and ended up being like a year and a half campaign. It was a full 1 to 20 campaign even. And at that point, one of the people that was in the original group who thought it was just a game night and not D&D is now my DM for another group. Just cool how that kind of turns out, you know? And we did so many things wrong. We didn't know half of the rules. We winged everything. In the first campaign, we didn't even have a single DM. Like, we switched out every other game and just played like our character as a DM PC, and each of us built on the story over time. It was tons of fun. It was absolutely nowhere close to rules as written, but we did our best, and we slowly learned as we went. And now we're here. So Phil Carney, what's up, my man? Oh, good to see you. I got my Ranger video coming out tomorrow. So I am excited to have that finally come out after all of your efforts in making subclasses for one of the concepts that I mentioned. Alvaro, same. I had no idea either. I just dumped on D&D Beyond and just checked out what I could do with a character. That I feel like that's a lot of people's introduction to D&D, at least DMing, because there's a lot of players out there and no one to DM, or no one willing to DM, or just have the time to DM. And so there's a lot of people who kind of just become DMs by default because they want to play so bad, and that was me. That was definitely me. And now I DM a game and play a game every week. Phil Carney, I love the Rangers. Right? I don't know why they get so much hate. I really don't. Like, they're my second favorite class, and there's so much utility. Cardboard Creations, hello, totally forgot you were doing a stream today. I'm offended. I'm offended, Cardboard. You put it in your calendar, and you be here. No, I'm kidding. It's every Saturday, 9 o'clock, because I try to stay to that schedule, but either way, I'm happy that you made it. Absolutely. Alvaro, afterwards, after some experience, I figured out that Sorcerer would fit that original character better, so I remade Shadow Sorcerer. Hey, nice. Learning 4 cantrips initially helped a lot. Yeah, and we're talking about reflavoring today. Reflavoring the Druid. Maybe I should get to it. Let's go. So here is the Druid. There's a picture there. One of my favorite classes, although I've only ever played it once, if I'm being completely honest. the power of nature. I'm just going to read out what the ludonarrative is, what the feeling of a druid should be when you're playing it. So power of nature, druids revere nature above all, gaining their spells and other magical powers either from the force of nature itself or from a nature deity. Many druids pursue a mystic spirituality of transcendent union with nature rather than devotion to a divine entity, while others serve gods of wild nature, animals, or elemental forces. The ancient Druidic traditions are sometimes called the Old Faith, in contrast to the worship of gods in temples and shrines. Druid spells are oriented towards nature and animals, the power of Tooth and Claw, the Sun and Moon, Fire and Storm. Druids also gain the ability to take on animal forms, and some druids make a particular study of this practice, even to the point where they prefer animal form to their true form. Now, fun fact about the druid is that the narrative that a druid is today is so far away from what a druid used to be millennia ago. Druids originally were, I would say, closer to a cleric, where they were religious leaders who passed down their right or their tenets by word of mouth. They had no written word. They were also political leaders in their organization. They were also like bards, so like storytellers. They did not actually adhere to a lot of things nature-based, and they did not turn into animals. Go figure, right? Real world, no animals. But it's interesting to me that ludonarrative has changed and switched to the druid that it is today, and it's very interesting. To me, this is one of my favorite uses when people argue on like why one class shouldn't be another, because like a druid used to be a cleric. So if I want to make a druid that is a cleric of a nature person, then like I'm actually closer to real world lore than I am today, right? So Cardboard Creations, dang, that was me too. I've only DM'd because no one else knows how to. Yeah. A lot of people think it's so hard too, but it's not. I mean, I guess it depends on like how much effort that you put in and how much you think is required, I guess. But I've really come. It's a process that you kind of come to your own with. You know, with anything, you're gonna fail and you're gonna do crappy the majority of your first times. If you went to see like my first videos on this channel. I'm waiting for the day that I can go back and delete those, but for now I'll leave them up so that I can see my growth. But anyway, but it's just the realization of that and being okay with that you're gonna suck most things in the beginning, and it shouldn't be a reason not to start things. There's your little tip for the day. Phil Carney, I became a forever DM and I just wanted a stable game. Yeah. A lot of people become DMs because their DM isn't consistent, or their games aren't consistent. Alvaro, originally the concept of bards, clerics, and druids would mix a lot. Yep. I mean, you just take a look at original D&D. They only had four classes basically, and I don't think there wasn't a lot of flavor talk in the original D&D. I mean, if you were a wizard, you were a wizard. You're a guy with a cone hat and a wand. If you're a rogue, you're a guy with eyeshadow makeup that apparently, through all the comments, make you look like Gru. But if you want to see the comments on my rogue video, a lot of people thought that I looked like Gru on that one. But okay, going on. I would make a lore bard and call it a druid of a Celtic-style tribe. Ooh, do that. Please do that. Yes. I would want to make a multi-class bard, divine soul sorcerer, folkloric spells. Yeah, that's a great way to do it. Yeah. I love multi-classing for flavor. Anyways, going back to the druid. The main thing that makes a druid is their wild shape, right? Their wild shape, and it's weird. Like, going back up to preserve nature, it's the last sentence about animal forms. It goes on and like how they're so nature-based and they worship nature and they get their magic from ancient traditions and temples and shrines, tooth and claw, sun and moon and fire and storm, and then finally the animals, but then animals are the one thing that makes the druid different. Anyways, I just thought, I don't think that matters too much. So wild shape, you can use your action to magically assume the shape of a beast you have seen before. You can use this feature twice. You regain expended features when you finish a short or long rest. Your druid level determines the beast you can transform into, as shown on this table here. You can stay in beast shape for a number of hours equal to half your druid level rounded down. So, and basically this levels up, not to read everything. And then when you transform, you can't cast spells while you're in your shape, but of course you have extended hit points. You revert back to your shape when it reaches 0, etc., etc. You can, however, concentrate on your spells as you transform, or when you transform. And then you pick your druid circle. Now, with the druid, a lot of the subclasses actually take this wild shape and make it something else, meaning that the main feature of the subclass makes this wild feature, the feature of a class, different. So it's up to you on whether that's a good thing or not. But let's take a look at the wildfire. The wildfire druid summon wildfire spirit. Instead of using your wild shape feature to make you into an animal, you use your wild shape feature to summon a fire elemental that fights for you, right? Now you then can like send that out and then transform yourself, which is kind of cool. But then you're done for wild shapes until you take a rest again. Like that's it. That's all you get. Take the circle of stars, for example, and you see starry form. So instead of doing an animal, you use wild shape to create a form around you. If you've seen like the Eternals, I imagine it's something a lot like that, where like these wisps of magic create a form around you that resemble a starry constellation, right? In this case, it's like Archer, Chalice, or a dragon, which do different features, which are also really cool. And then if you don't do that, you can also turn into an animal. But my question is like, if you have these features, how often are you doing an animal form, right? In my experience, not a lot with games and players that I've played with. However, I'm sure that there are many that do. One thing on that, back on the comments, Alvaro says, yeah, fighter, magic user, priest, and later thief. Yes, oh yeah, that's true. They didn't add thief until later in the 4 original classes for D&D, in the original OG game. Alvaro, interesting about reflavoring Druid. The Great Merlin's powers were closer to a Druid than a wizard. Yep. But what has he become an icon for wizard? Yeah, and I don't know why. I think that he does just have magic books, but it is more wizard-like. And in The Hobbit, I'm getting a lot of hate for not remembering the name, but the Druid in The Hobbit, who's friends of Gandalf. I can't remember if he was like actually considered a wizard or not, but him being more druid. But he comes to mind with a lot of those kind of things. Yeah, starry form, sparkly DP. Yeah. So with the wild shape, I mean, basically everyone gets something different, right? Symbiotic entity, spores gives you a wild shape to create something, a thing around you. And I am a huge fan. I'm honestly a huge fan of using features differently. It's giving you more choices. If you took the rage from the barbarian, you don't get this in every subclass. Excuse me. You don't get this in every subclass. If you're raging, that's it. That's what a rage is. You don't get to use the rage feature to do different things, right? In the wild magic barbarian, when you rage, there is like an extra thing on top of that happens, but it's different than what we're talking about here. So again, I'm going to beg the question: like, is that a good thing? Is it good that you have more options, but meaning that there is another option for your subclass? It kind of means that you're not really using your original class feature that much, and so is that adding flavor, or that's no? I wouldn't say it that way. I guess, is it rendering your original class feature, the thing that makes you the druid, or what the class is giving you? is it rendering it irrelevant, right? So I think that's okay, honestly, because it does give you a choice, and choices are good. But then how would we fix that? Would we just give them another pool to turn to? Yeah, we could do that. I don't think that may break anything, because the wild shape feature, unless you're a... Oh, where'd it go? Unless you're a moon druid, it really only has utility type features, right? Or utility type uses. Because at 8th level, let's see, a giant eagle is challenge rating 1 at 8th level. You can cream a challenge rating 1 at 8th level with your party. And most monsters that you fight up against. Oh, hold on. Alvaro, absolutely love that subclasses let you use wild shape for something else. Yeah, it's a great thing. I play Wildfire Druid and mostly use the Fire Spirit wild shape for utility. Yeah, yep. Yeah, and maybe that's the argument, right? A wild shape is a utility and should stay for utility, but then when you're in a fight, you turn to the features of your subclass. And I like that dissonance. Radagast, yes, Radagast. Thank you. One of the brown. One of the wizards, but yet he's like very, very much druid. Deities and demigods, he's a druid wizard. There you go. Cardboard creations, yes, I love that too. Like the different bardic inspiration uses different channel divinities, or different channel divinities for the cleric. Yeah, just more options for the features that you have. Although I don't think you should do that for the monk. They already have enough. The things that they use that for. Give them another pool or other abilities outside of that. DP, would you allow a player to swap out different type of creature for beast? Yes! Thank you. Yes, I would. And I'll get to that in a second. Assuming the power level and stat blocks are equivalent. Alvaro, thanks DP. I didn't know that. Oh yeah, he's just thinking. I remember you from the last stream. Nice to see you again. Oh, good to see everybody here again. Brythguard. Hey, welcome Brythguard. Someone I know was going to play a noble druid from a kingdom that was in tune with nature. It was for a campaign of a tech kingdom versus nature kingdom. That's cool. I do love city druids. I made a city druid. There was a city druid. I talked about city druids in my druid video. Druids in the city are very evocative for me, and I love the feeling of that. Alvaro, I definitely allow different kinds of creatures in my games. Maybe not you can turn into any kind of blank, but perhaps selecting a variety of allowed monsters that don't break the game. Yeah, absolutely. And I think with the wild shape, there is a great flavor here, just as the baseline wild shape, because you get to transform in any type of beast. A flying beast, if you want to be like a druid of air, something that burrows if you want to be a druid of earth, and then like something that hangs out around hot places like a desert if you want to be like fire. Things like that. You really get to flavor your druid specifically to animals. But then there is that question, right? If you can summon other creatures, there is in, not my current game, but one game, well, somewhere in my current world, in my campaign, there are people that do experiments on druids through the plane of the abyss. Meaning that they take on abyssal-like qualities, and they can actually transform into demons for short periods of time. And I think that is so cool, because druids being able to attune to nature, meaning all aspects of nature, right? And to me, it makes sense for a druid, or not even a druid character, but just a character that has magic like unto a druid, being able to transform into those things. It's a separate level of transmutation. And aberrations, monstrosities, heck, I think even the centaur is a monstrosity. Yeah, technically I think the centaur is a monstrosity. So I really don't think that that's a bit big of a stretch, right? And with the druid, so the druid doesn't have this, but the ranger has this. When you summon a beast with a ranger with the new Tossers rules, it just gives you a stat block, a generic stat block. It doesn't give you like a specific beast that you do. It'd be nice to have that with the Druid, to have a stat block that says, okay, these are your abilities if you do some like waterborne creature, or these are your abilities if you do some airborne creature, or this is your abilities if you do some land creature. But with this feature, what it looks like can be anything you want. And this is kind of like tiers of flavor, if you will, right? First tier is the wild shape as is. You can change into other animals and you can do different things. Second tier is you still use those stat blocks, but now it looks like something entirely different, right? It looks like an abyssal chicken or a choker or a boggle, right? And with these things, you still just use the same stat blocks, but they're there, and you can turn into them. Third level of flavor is actually homebrewing, right? Where you take these things, the stat blocks that they have, and be able to turn them into them. And I think by with Alvaro mentioning. Was it you who mentioned that? Somebody mentioned that you take specific ones, right? Work with your DM and say, okay, this is the kind of druid that I want to make. What are the specific ones can I turn into, right? Because yeah, I definitely think that you can turn into any demon or devil is a lot, and I'd have to go through all of them to actually see if that's viable. But your DM can come in and say like, okay, let's work together and create a set of maybe 3, 4, or 5 things that you can transform into, depending on the situation. And knowing some like tier 1 devils and demons, I don't think that's a bit of a stretch. Actually, let's look at them. Let's look at our monsters here, because I'm curious. Let's do that. DP, I want to wild shape into a construct, effectively a transformer. Yeah! Yes! Yeah. Yeah, we're just talking about fiends and devils, but actually, yeah, let's do that first. Let's look at the construct. Challenge rating 0 through... Oh, is it working? Come on. 0 through 1. Let's see how broken this is. Alvaro says, similarly to homebrewing wild magic tables, yeah, from last stream, I have made specific creature tables for the druid to transform into. Hey, nice. Your druid comes from the mountains of this region. All right, here live these beasts. That's cool. That would be cool. I love... Is Displacer Beast a beast? Why have I not made a druid that can transform into a Displacer Beast? That would be so cool. Okay. Animated armor. This is like your level 8, you get to transform into animated armor with the Transformer Druid. Anti-magic susceptibility. Oh. The armor is incapacitated while in an area of anti-magic field. That's bad for you. And then false appearance, you can look like a suit of armor. That'd be kind of cool. Animated broom. That would be interesting. I imagine you're like a makeup of just like nanoparticles that can like shape into different things. This one would give you fly and false object. I think a lot of these things you can like just become a false object. And I think that's actually a really cool aspect that like as a player, your sneak would be great. Just cast Pass Without a Trace and then transform into a broom. Animated halberd, same thing. Animated chained library. Let's find like actually one of these. Okay, so this is the Bronze Scout. Earth armor. Bronze Scout doesn't provoke opportunity attacks when it burrows. That's cool. Magic resistance has advantage on saving throws against spells and other magical effects. You could argue that it's pretty strong. It has bite and a lightning flare. So in a lot of beasts, you really only get a claw or a bite, but with this one, you get a lightning flare. Each creature in contact with the ground within 15 feet of the Bronze Scout must make a DC 13 dexterity saving throw or take 14 lightning damage on a failed save, half on a successful one. Yeah, so it's got 18 hit points. That's not a lot at 8th level. I would allow this. I think it would be fun. And here's the thing. If it becomes too much, take it away. Have that open conversation with your players. Say like, hey, I'm going to give you these because I think it's awesome and I think it'd be so fun. But if it ends up being super strong, then then we'll just have to take a relook at things and take it down a notch. Alvaro says, Displacer Beast is a monstrosity. Darn it. I'm gonna transform into one anyways. Rich Mary, hey man, how's it going? Welcome. Good to see you again. Alvaro, yes, a player once suggested a Warforged. That was a Transformer. Yep. Lafgoon, welcome. Almost a Mimic Druid. Yeah. How cool would that be? They're coming out with a Plasmoid race in Spelljammer. So, put two and two together. That's perfect. Rich Mary, Spore Druid, Wildfire Druid, and Dreams Druid are my favorite. Interesting. I haven't heard Dreams Druid in a while. Silver Storm, hey, welcome to the stream. The idea of a druid who transforms into moving broom makes me think of the brooms in Fantasia. Yeah, that's absolutely what it is. Brooms in Fantasia, I think, are a lot of the inspiration for the creator bard, or creation bard as well. Yeah. Rich Mary, reflavoring wild shape is the best thing you can do when it comes to druid subclasses. Yeah. It's one of the best things. And I even though that there is a lot of flavor with the wild shape, I do wish that there was a little bit more, right? Let's say the Clapper Claw. I don't know why this one's so funny to me. You get a scarecrow with claws. Yeah, basically like this one. Okay, stuffing dead plant matter into itself and regains hit points. That's interesting. I don't know if I would allow that because, again, the main thing about turning into a wild shape is that you do have limited hit points and you go back. Oh, of course. Drones from Mechanus. Axiomonic Mine. The duo drone can't be compelled to act in any manner contrary to its nature or instructions. Disintegration. If the duo drone dies, its body disintegrates into dust, leaving behind its weapons and anything else it was carrying. Okay. And then it has a fist and a javelin attack. That one's okay. I think that one would be fine. And here's the thing, like, here, level 4 in reflavoring this. Level 1, wild shape just as it is, reflavoring your animals. Tier 2, what did I say what tier 2 was? Shoot. Tier 2 was reflavoring the stat blocks to be something else, so just visually have that be different. Tier 3 was taking these stat blocks and using them. Tier 4 is making your own stat block, saying like, oh, I want to be a drone from Mechanus. Okay, work with your DM and create a stat block that is a drone, and you have a stat block that's more like the Bronze Scout that we have here. And then make another one that's more like a bronze statue, like a bronze ooh, cute bronze otter, a bronze otter. Pack tactics, ooh, nice. And just have like a set of your own stat blocks, which might actually be your DM might be more up for that than tier 3. DP, a dragon druid would be cool. Yes, absolutely, and that is missing, and I wish we had it. Because druids are so elemental focused and dragons are so elemental focused, you think could be a match made in heaven, and we don't have that. Rich Mary, I've been working on a Guardian of the Forest druid. Nice. The mechanics are all based around wood armor, eventually giving the druid a tree mech. Okay, let's talk about things that are missing on the druid real quick. Let's talk about the things that are missing. I'll go into chatting for a second. So things that are missing for the druid that I'd like to see is one that has to do with trees. One that, like, with tree ants, with transforming into plants, like becoming a tree itself, like dryad or naiad capabilities, right? I think that would be really cool that I haven't seen yet, and I have no idea why. Because at the beginning of the stream, we talked about how, like, the animal part was just like one sentence at the end, where most of it was like, this thing is about nature and trees. So let's get one that turns into trees. Second one is something, I'd say maybe like a sky druid, and I know that you can like transform into birds, but like a druid that can actually fly would be cool, would be dope. Like an Arashari, if you watch Critical Role, that is like actually of the sky, maybe lives in the clouds or things like that, because that's a part of nature. It's like an atmospheric druid and not really a plants or animals druid. And one that manipulates terrain. Right, one that actually has power over the terrain itself, meaning that they can make things, and you can probably do this in spells, but you can do a lot of druid things with different spells too. But having a subclass that's specifically like, hey, I'm going to make a big rock here, I'm going to make this into difficult terrain. And I think they did a little bit of this in the Blight Druid from the Tal'Dorei Reborn campaign setting, which is something I actually really like this subclass for the Druid in that book. But that was one example. Alvaro, Clapperclaw is a specific NPC from Wild Beyond the Witchlight. Oh, that makes sense. I haven't read Wild Beyond the Witchlight all the way through. And then Brythguard would be kind of interesting based on the axiomatic mind ability of the Duodrone if they had connected to the hive mind of Mechanus. Yeah, and that would be one way to flavor your Druid, right? Is a construct that has come from Mechanus that was given the capability to look human to fit in, but then can transform into a lot of the things that Mechanus that are reminiscent of Mechanus. DP, how about a druid for each of the 4 classical elements aside from fire? Yes, that is definitely missing too. If we look again at the wildfire shape, I wish that they made this an elemental subclass and not just a fire type subclass, like making your summon spirit into any spirit, right? Because we have the moon druid where you can transform yourself into one, which is fun, but it also makes the moon druid one of the best subclasses. Now, the Circle of Wildfire is also a fantastic fantastic subclass, but why not be able to change that up? Why not be able to make a wildfire or a spirit that's all lightning and electricity, right? Or make one that is made out of earth. We can't do that yet, but I think that would be so cool to have. And so if I had a player that says, hey, I want to make a druid that can summon little rock familiars, I'd be like, yes, absolutely, and let's make it probably based off of the wildfire. Obviously, I changed the spells. I changed everything to probably more bludgeoning damage than fire damage, but I'd keep everything else. So, Brythguard, however you want to put command system of Mechanus. Yeah, it'd be a lot of the roleplay with the DM. Blight Druids are like Defilers from Dark Sun, another setting that I want to be more familiar with. A Rich Mary Air Rock Druid sounds great. It could play off a wildfire quite well. Yeah. Problem is that it steps on the toes of a Genie Warlock. Well, Genie Warlock doesn't get companions. And there are also other subclasses that give you options, like the Draconic Sorcerer. And there are a lot of subclasses that step on the toes of other subclasses. So and this is a personal opinion. It's not fact or things like that. But I personally think that archetypes are archetypes, and they can expand over multiple different classes. And if they do, then that's okay, because like a fire druid is going to look different than a fire warlock, simply because they're base classes and because of the different types of things that are going on in the subclass. So I would have no fear making this like a Genie Warlock, in the fact that it just gives them more options. Alvaro says, yeah, the Ashari could have their own druid subclass tied to their element, like TP suggests. Yep. Yeah, go figure that your entire druid is based on one element. I think that isn't too far of a stretch. But again, we're not blaming WotC for not doing these things. We're not saying like be better and make more subclasses. We're not saying that. We're just mentioning that maybe some of these things are missing, and it's okay to reflavor because of that, right? And it's okay to homebrew because of that. Because if we don't, then these things can't happen yet. And we can't expect or can't wait for WotC to make these things in order to play amazing archetypes and amazing flavors, right? It's up to us, and we just should feel empowered to do that. Phil Carney, Genie Warlock in Dark Sun is an amazing flavor. Yeah. FYI, the Indestructible Boy Runekeeper class is now finished. Yep. Phil Carney. Archetypes is what Strix classing is all about. Yeah, so in Strixhaven did do kind of this. It was hated on, but in the original Unearthed Arcana, they made an archetype that fit multiple subclasses, and everyone hated it. Everyone did not like it, and I shouldn't say everyone, but the majority, enough people to the fact that they took it back and they were like, okay, never mind, we're not gonna do this. So I get that a lot of people don't like the encroachment. I do. I get it. And if it's done wrong, then it can definitely hurt things. But doing it in that way that I think that they did, where it's the same exact stat block, and because the different thing or the different classes are so different, it's going to look different for each class. I think the way that they did it was difficult to work with, right? So, talking about elemental flavoring, right? If we wanted to do like a water type druid, right? Which one would we do? So let's look at the Circle of the... Which one? Circle of the Land. Yep, right here. Circle of the Land. This one is your best bet when it comes to, in my opinion, when it comes to certain... If your druid is from a specific land type, obviously, but also if your druid is coming from a specific type of spell casting, I think that this focuses more on the land part more than the magic part, but it works because a lot of these spells you actually don't get as a druid, right? So if you're from the Arctic, you get all of these spells. Coast, you get all of these spells, so like water type spells. Desert, you have no fire type spells, but you get a lot of the kind of desert flavor that could work in line with your fire type druid. Forest, more tree or insect type magic. Grassland, a lot of actually utility and divination. Mountain, swamp, and underdark. So with the land druid, it's nice to get these extra spells to kind of flavor your druid in this specific way. However, they specifically don't get an extra ability to use their wild shape, so they're still using their wild shape in their base form, and a lot of people don't like that because you're like weaker than the moon druid. But anyways, you can reflavor that any kind you want. And then there is the fact that the druid spells. You do have a lot of the elemental types. However, and we talked about this on the last stream, if you wanted to be a fire type spellcasting, let's see, damage type, fire. Let's look at all the fire spells. Oh, that's not, hold on. Do I have two? Oh. Yes, concentration? No. Why is concentration on? Druid also has a lot of concentration spells. It also has a lot of concentration spells. So here we have all the fire spells, right? All the fire related spells that do fire damage. Here they are. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 spells for your druid. That takes up a good portion of your spell list. Now let's look at one that if you want to be, let's say cold, just for the cause of it, just for kicks and giggles, we'll look at cold damage spells. We get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So like half. So if you wanted to be a Arctic type druid, you're looking at half the spells that you would normally get. And let's say you wanted to be of the swamp and you wanted to relate that to, let's say, poison. Oh, not piercing. Poison. Let's see how many poison spells that they have. 2. They have 2 poison spells. So if you really wanted to be a swamp druid with poison spells, really your best bet is to go maybe necrotic. You'd have to combine maybe necrotic, poison, and acid Yeah, so we got 2 here. And you'd have to be the Spore Druid would be a good one. Oh, you guys are talking about a lot. Alvaro says, what is nice about a land druid is that they get extra spells plus an ability similar to the wizard's Arcane Recovery, restoring spell slots on a short rest. Yes, that is useful. Absolutely. And I hope I didn't come across that I think land druid is bad, because I do enjoy the land druid. Phil Carney, there are so many spells that have an obvious elemental identity that's not surprising WotC hasn't tackled it. Like element is, like what element is Tree Stride? True. Yeah, and like I'm just doing fire damage, right? If you wanted to be a evoker druid, but there is a couple that are more utility based that are focused on those things, but not many. I'm surprised there aren't philosophy druids. Balance, preservation, reclamation, dynamism. Yeah, that one's not here either. That's a good point. I'm gonna write that down. Philosophy druid, because a lot of the argument on the cleric is that that philosophy is one part of what the cleric could be, right? Where it has its gods, but it doesn't have to have a god. It could be just a philosopher. But if you're not a philosopher, then what are you, right? Or if you're not a person who is religious, what does that look like? And it does turn to a lot to nature, right? And like atheists, or not atheists, but just people who, a lot of people who don't believe in a god still believe in the natural remedies of earth. They believe in the power of the ourselves and our interaction with the world around us. So I definitely could see a amazing druid flavor on philosophy. A venom druid. We definitely need a venom druid. A deadly nightshade druid. The main problem with the druid subclasses is that they are not bad. With most druid subclasses is not that they are bad, but they pale in comparison to the moon druid in early levels. Yeah. Taking the moon druid out of the equation, a lot of the subclasses are very good, and the circle of the moon is like the exception to the rule, right? It's the standout. Obviously, like if you want to min-max, if you want to be super powerful, then this is the class that you want to be. There's still a lot of flavor with the moon druid, but a lot of people choose the moon druid because it is so powerful. But I think as far as flavor goes, then you can do a lot of other things, right? So, anyways, that's the druid. With let's look at the Circle of Dreams. So this is the druid that's tied to the Feywild, right? And this goes back to what we were saying about the druids of like the Abyss. If this druid can tie into the Feywild, and I get that the Feywild is like nature-y, but it's still another plane of existence. If they can tie into the Feywild through portals in their forests, then it would make sense that maybe some would gain different types of powers if they were in by some other portal that leads to another plane, whether it be Mechanus, whether it be the Abyss or the Nine Hells, or Heaven. What if your animals were celestial? What if you could transform into celestial type animals? Hold on. Slight detour. We're going to look at celestials. What? Oh, there's no 0 to 1 celestials? There's no challenge rating 0 to 1 celestials. That's sad. Really? 2? There's 1, a Pegasus. There's 1. Okay. So maybe at some point I just allow them to be a Pegasus. Like if they get to that level 8, I'm like, okay, now you can just be a Pegasus. That's fine. They just have hooves, and they can fly. They can basically do that at that point. So, and then before then, all of their animals like have celestial ties or pulling magic from Celestia, and then they become that. And then while we have a few minutes, let's look at monstrosities for a second, because I forgot we didn't do that. All right, so we have a lobster folk, which looks like this. They're amphibious. Yeah, I could totally see a druid being that, right? Like a druid, like putting on armor on themselves, like a lobster, like if especially a water type druid. Amphibious, they can breathe water and they can claw. That does not seem broken to me. Let's see, what's this guy? Oh, that guy's cool. Onkeg? Ooh, maybe an Onkeg? Those guys are, oh no, that's the challenge rating 2. Infant Basilisk. Basilisk Young. This one I might not allow because you can basically turn people into stone. So that might be a little broken. A Bone Whelk. These are kind of cool. Ooh, me a snail. Adhesive. Death Scream. Spider Climb. Just looking at that's a lot for a 1/4. Shriek causes non-magical organic material within 10 feet of the bone whelk to rot, taking 9 points of necrotic damage. Sure. Cockatrice for the same reason. Probably wouldn't allow that. Cragcat, they can make spells go back at the caster. So no. Actually, it's fun. In my game, I actually skinned a cragcat and made a coat out of it, and had like a cragcat magic item. So that's cool. Phil Carney says the 4-element monk provides a decent path to reflavoring spells like Hold Person is Clench of North Wind as an air spell. Yeah, it would be heavy lifting, but a lot of stuff could be reskinned. Yeah, and that's what you have to do, right? If you're going to be an elemental druid, you're going to have to reskin or reflavor a lot of these spells, and that is okay. A cherub druid? Sure. Yeah, you could be a cherub druid. Yeah. Fun fact about Mordenkainen's Monsters of the Multiverse, the new book that just came out. You can be a small Aasimar now. The Aasimar in the stat block, you can be medium or small type creature. You can be a cherub. So there you go. Alvaro, yes, I agree with reflavoring the 4 elements monk. Yes. Celestials lack options. Yes, they do. A Warlock's Familiar, DP says, has its type changed to Fey, Fiend, or Celestial. Yeah. Any point when you summon something with a spell or familiar or a class ability, it comes from one of these sources. It comes from like a Fiendish source, a Celestial source, or a Fey source. Or hey, maybe a Shadow source, right? Or a mechanical source from Mechanist. But that's another cool way to just reflavor that adds no mechanical things to your familiars is where do they come from, right? Where is that magic being pulled from? Alvaro, wait, it wasn't, DP says it wasn't a rock, it was a rock lobster. If you're talking about elementals and turning into a rock lobster, then yes. Alvaro, true familiars can be like the most basic of transformations and none would be game breaking. Phil Carney, small Aasimar cherub is so fun. Yeah, make a cherub and make it your familiar. Just have a little diaper baby. Just fly around with you. Anyways. Oh! Displacer Beast Kitten. I'm making a druid that can turn into this. Okay, enough with that. Enough of that. Let's go to their tier list and figure out what it is. All right, start in the comments. Start telling me where you think the druid is, with S, A, B, C, or D, based on the many elemental spells that it has, based on the wild shape that it can turn into, and being able to take that wild shape and do different things with it. I don't think that the druid has many things going for it as far as further customization options, right? Kind of what you see is what you get in a lot of cases. Besides the spells, which of course you can take any spellcasting class and have customization with that. However, with that one customization, with that one feature, you can customize it in a lot of different ways, right? So it may not be having a lot of customization going into it, but there's a lot of customization going out of it. Right? So you can use DP says you can use a B stat block and change the type aberration. Yes. Mechanical impact would be minimal. Some detection spells, some protection spells, constructs and undead can't or don't breathe. Yeah. and I think at only level 4 you can breathe underwater anyways with a wild shape. DP, I think one of the plane shift downloadable supplement has a construct template that you can slap on a beast. Oh yeah, and that's another way to do that is templates. I forgot about templates. So, and then but then again with the Druid, you do have multiple options outside of the wild shape to do with your wild shape. So not even changing into an animal, but doing other things with it, right? There are some things that are missing with the Druid as far as things that you can do with them, but there are with every class. So where does it go? We have an A for sure from Phil Carney. Alvaro says I have them. Gonna look for those stats. Oh, perfect. DP A through B. Yeah, I don't think it's quite an S. Ooh, but it could be. Because you still have very specific things, right? You still have, as a class, you still have specific things as far as what you can turn into on the base element of it, right? And it usually has to be some sort of beast or animal companion or something like that. So you're almost like forced into this ability, meaning that if you don't want to take it, you don't have to take it. But that's just a side thought. And there's another question: does this whole thing, does the Druid class lead into the Ludo narrative of what a Druid is? Does this Druid feel like playing a Druid? And I think with the elemental spells and the wild magic, or sorry, not wild magic, the wild shape, I think it definitely does. So if you're asking me, I think it is a strong A. I really do. I think it is a very, very strong A. There are things that I wish that the Druid could do, but easily reflavored to do so, or easily homebrewed to do so. It's stat blocks that are already made for you. How easy is that? So actually, when it comes to the tier list, the question, how easily can you make changes to the mechanics? Very easy. Very easy. And that's one of my favorite things about the Druid, is because it's so easy to reflavor it, even just within the class itself, right? Rich Mary says, ooh, the new video is coming out in a couple of minutes? New video? What new video? Did I accidentally premiere my... No, that's not me. Alvaro says, as always, it depends on your DM, but there are so many different things that you could modify. New wild shape options, spell lists, over and all in A. Yeah. It's the one class that you turn to when you do want to transform into things, or the one class that you go to when you want elemental spells, right? To me, if you wanted to be a nature cleric, you should be going Druid instead. If you wanted a better flavor, obviously, if you feel like a nature cleric is better to what you want to do, then do that. But I think as far as if you're wanting a cleric that worships nature and want elemental spells, Druid gives you a little bit more options to do that. I have one scheduled. Oh no, Rich. I have one scheduled for tomorrow. I'm rechecking. It says the 6th. Today's the 5th. Okay, you made me panic there for a second. You made me. Anyways, if you do think that, for those of you watching in the future as well, if you think that the Druid is of a different tier, let me know in the comments. If there are things that you would feel like we missed, let us know in the comments. Things that if you want to defend heart and soul the Druid, please do so. Or if you feel like the Druid is a little bit overrated, I'd love to hear your thoughts as well. I do have a video coming out tomorrow, so thanks, Rich. It's all about the Ranger, right? So a lot of the same druidic spells given to a half-caster. We'll be going into a lot of how to reflavor the Ranger, the different archetypes, and subverting of those archetypes in what you can, or what the Ranger really allows us to play with. So go and check that out tomorrow, 10 a.m. PST. So with that said, thank you all for joining in. I love how interactive these things have been. And honestly, again, these live streams are one of the things that I look forward to every week. These are one of my favorite things to do. And I look forward to Saturday mornings. So, and I just get to wake up, have my waffles, and hop on the stream and hang out with you amazing and very smart and intuitive people. So, until tomorrow, Go out there and make the world a better place, both on and off your table. See you in the next one.